Evolving markets require an alternative approach to investing. Cut through the volatility with Yield Street investments that target fixed durations and income generation. Explore investments in art, real estate, legal finance, and more with minimums starting at $1,000 and targeting annual yields up to 15%. Discover the difference of a diverse portfolio with Yield Street. Head to yieldstreet.com to create your account today.
This episode is brought to you by BlackBerry. BlackBerry mobile devices were powerful because they were secure. Today, it's pairing the security you held in your hand with artificial intelligence to protect everything you touch. BlackBerry Intelligent Security. Everywhere. Learn more at blackberry.com.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom. Hold my hand.
You hold my hand.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Now here's a highlight from Coast to Coast AM on iHeartRadio.
And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. John Zaffis, our special guest. He has more than 30 years of experience studying and investigating the paranormal. He has had the opportunity to work for and with his aunt and uncle, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And through the hands-on work and other investigators and clergy, he has obtained a great deal of knowledge and understanding of the paranormal and is considered, without a doubt, one of the most foremost authorities in the field today. He has worked extensively with both spiritualists and psychics concerning how their knowledge is used for channeling, reincarnation, or calling up the spirits for information. He's got several books out, including When Spirits Speak, We Listen, Shadows of the Dark, Haunted by the Things You Love, Demon Haunted. His websites are all linked up at coasttocoastam.com. And John, welcome back, my friend. How have you been?
I'm doing very, very good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. I miss our mutual friend, the late Rosemary Ellen Guiley.
Oh, I miss her so much. You know, her and I bantering back and forth and just talking about different things. But, George, I don't know if we had discussed the last time or not, but I had inherited her gin collection.
Oh, really?
Yes, she had about 20 or 30 pieces of gin that she did not, want to keep in the house. She had packed it up, and she had given it to me. To this day, they're still packed up. I haven't unpacked them as of yet, but I thought that was, a very nice thing of her to, give me her collection of different statues and things.
A great gesture. I got to tell you, John, every time she was on our program, she mentioned you in some capacity. Every time. She was just a marvelous lady.
Yes, absolutely.
I first got to know her when I was doing my local show in St. Louis back in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking for guests, paranormal guests. I was doing a local show, and I went to the bookstore, and I stumbled across a book, The Encyclopedia of Dreams, by Rosemary Ellen Guiley. And we tracked her down, and we set her up as a guest. And she stayed our guest locally, and then we brought her on to Coast. I don't think she was doing Coast to Coast with Art Bell until I came in, and then we brought her on as a guest, and she was just on all the time. Wrote a book with me called Talking to the Dead, and she was just one of a kind. I miss her dearly. I wish if she reincarnated, we'd find out who that was, and we'd get that person back on the air,
Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be the first thing. If she did reincarnate into anybody, George, first thing would be I'd pick up the phone and she'd go, well, I'll go, Ro, you're back.
I love it. And then she went fast once she got her affliction, didn't she?
Yes. Yeah, it did. It was quite a battle that she had going on there. It went into remission. They went vacationing, and she came back, and unfortunately they had found it in several other locations, and it just spread very, very quickly.
How's her husband, Joe, doing? I haven't talked to him in a while.
He is doing very well. I was with him several months back. We just got together, and we were chit-chatting, going back and forth, and I said to Joe, Joe, does she contact you? Do you know? He goes, John, she's always around. And I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, I've never moved anything. All her clothing, everything is still in place. And I was like, wow. I said, next time you talk to her, tell her I haven't gotten any EVPs or haven't heard her over the close box. I want to know what she's doing.
We've got a great guest named Karen Dahlman who deals with the Ouija board.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Karen claims that Rosemary's contacted her through the Ouija board.
Yes, she was telling me at the last convention we were together at,
Yeah.
Karen, and she said that she was going back and forth with her, and I said the same thing. I go, wow, next time you're communicating with her, I tell her I want to know where she's been.
That's right. What was it like having Ed and Lorraine Warren as relatives?
You know, I always looked at it when people would say that to me, George, and just go, I don't know. I had an uncle that chased ghosts. You know? So to me it was really, over the course of the years until, after Ed had gone down and, things changed and, it was so different after that. But I think just gaining the knowledge and doing the different things, people never realized what they were really like behind the scenes. I mean, back in the day, they'd be working on 10, 20 cases a week,
Wow.
just being involved with them, going to the locations and, sometimes me going up there or delivering food or something that my mom had made for Ed and jumping in the car and going off with them to go investigate and not coming back to the following day. I miss it. I really, really miss that. I miss just sitting down, chit-chatting. It's a different world today as far as, paranormal investigating. Today we have thousands of paranormal groups and so many things. It's just a totally different world.
Oh, they were giants, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
My
yes,
gosh.
They were.
I remember a lot of movies based on what they did and the things in your new book, of course, When Spirits Speak, We Listen. Tell me about that, and then we'll get into some of the other things.
Sure. It's a unique way that Debbie and Larry had put the book together, writing up the different stories, talking about communication with human spirit that could be causing a haunting. It doesn't mean that it could be negative. What to look for when children are having issues or something's happening. Again, the three of us can get together. We can go in, need to, do what we need to do to investigate to find out what's going on. But what's good about it is me going in as a demonologist, Debbie going in as a psychic medium, Larry goes in as our clergy, our priest. So we're able to basically look at everything and see what we could do while we're there, and we don't always necessarily have to keep going back and keep going back. Because I look at it more today, George, is the fact that, we know there's something out there. How many more EVPs or, psychic photographs are we going to collect? You know what I mean? For the newer people, yes, that's a thrill. Today I look at it more like, okay, let's go in, let's see what we need to do, what we got to do to help the people out. Is it a ghost? Is it a haunting? Is it a haunted item? Is it something on a negative level that we may have to be more involved with with several trips or something? But she had wrote it to the fact of, telling the story, a little bit of the history, what we were doing, how we did it, and if there was actually a conclusion with a little follow-up behind it. So I was very, I had called her back when I was reading the manuscript, Debbie, and I said, you did a good job on this.
I love it. There was a movie that came out about 8 years ago called The Conjuring,
yes.
based on that very haunted house in Rhode Island, which I'm told is up for sale for $1.2 million. Did you hear that?
Yes. Jen and Corey own it. I'm very good friends with them. When they first purchased it from Norma, we had gone up there, and basically everything was still intact. They're doing good, but it's taking its toll on them.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work doing that 24/7 with people coming in and out 7 days a week.
It's like it's a tourist attraction, isn't it?
Basically, yes. So it's a lot of work and very time-consuming trying to keep up on everything. So, again, they've had it for 2 years now, and with the notoriety and everything that house has, the amount of shows that it's been on, well, they just might get that $1.2 million.
Yeah, that is. And would they continue? Do you think the new owners, whoever they may be, will continue it as a display home for the haunted people to come by and look at it?
I do, George, because it's such a
I wouldn't want to live in it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. But the simple fact that there's a lot of activity in that house, and I've been there several times. And each time I go there, there's always something different that transpires, something that happens. So I kind of hope, I think from what Jen and Corey have said, I was just with them a couple of weeks ago, the next people that do end up purchasing it, they're hoping they keep the ghost tours going and the sleepovers and, the other different paranormal events that do take place on the property.
What happened at that house, John, a long time ago?
Long time ago, it was a case that Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated, and it was the Perron family. It was Roger and Al and the 5 little girls. Well, they had gone in to do an investigation, and they were basically able to determine that there was a lot of paranormal activity that transpired in there. A lot of things were going on. Now, the original piece of property, George, was well over 1,000 acres. So
wow.
Yes, it was a huge, huge piece of property, or an estate, if you will. And it was a farmhouse. And again, there's reported, people that passed away in there naturally, or there's reports of so many different things. A person being hung in there, then there's a report of, an old hag, which I've witnessed a couple of times myself in there, another spirit called Bathsheba.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much with that. And one thing that I'm always curious with is many times as I've been up there over the past several years, always different experiences. It's never the same thing.
Never the same.
Yeah, never the same.
Do you get scared on some of these events that you go out to?
It's not so much that I get scared as much as I get concerned. Because a lot of times folks, they want to experience a chair levitating, flying across the room or something.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times those things don't happen. But you have to be careful if people are, start provoking to a point that they can cause that type of activity to occur. And a lot of times we don't know what people are involved with that we're out there socializing and doing some of these different events with. So my guard goes very high. I think today, George, after all these years, one thing that would really fascinate me is seeing a house lift up and start to spin around. There isn't too much I haven't seen.
Just like the head of the girl in The Exorcist, huh?
Yeah, right?
That
would have been something.
Was it Ed and Lorraine Warren that got you interested in the paranormal?
Well, not actually. We were, myself and 4 of my other little cousins, we grew up. Ed's mom lived with us. My mom and Ed were twins.
Uh-huh.
So, on the holidays, George, when Ed and Lorraine would come to visit, my uncle would always tell us ghost stories and everything, and we'd get the biggest kick out of it. And my grandmother always used to sit there and go, that nonsense. And we used to just laugh and everything. But when I was 16... looked at the foot of my bed, seen a transparent figure, and it shook its head back and forth, went downstairs, told my mom, and she said, well, Johnny, did it say anything? I said, no, it just shook its head. She goes, well, Johnny, that was my father, your grandfather.
Oh.
And I went, well, how do you know that? She goes, well, you were 4 when he passed, and he was very stern. And she said he would always shake his head back and forth. And a couple of days afterwards, my grandmother passed away. Well, George, that made me start to think about how so many people claim deceased loved ones are coming to them when they're nearing death. So at that point, several weeks later, I was sitting down talking to Ed, and I was telling him, he turned and looked right at me, and he goes, you never believed me? I go, no, I thought you were just doing it. It was a quick way to make a buck. But here we are, 40, I'll be hitting 49 years this November.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Being involved with this, so... That's what basically got me off and running with getting involved with doing this stuff.
And you are by far the world's expert in haunted objects.
Well, I'm getting there.
You're there. Let me tell you. Why does a spirit attach itself to an object, like whatever it could be?
Well, one of the key elements I always look at, especially with older items, as we know, many years ago, people didn't have a lot of money and they didn't have a lot of things. So if they purchased something You know, so, even if it was a little statue or something,